Excuse me, ma'am.
Huh?
The insurance policy papers
Oh.
need your signature.
Okay, okay. So many signatures.
Yes.
Rachna, your insurance policy is due for renewal. Please renew the same. Congrats, renewed. Done. Hey folks, CA Rachna Ranade here and I welcome you all to a very interesting video which is PB FinTech. In this video, you all had requested me that please do a separate video on PB FinTech and here we are with that video. Just for your information, PB FinTech's subsidiary is Policy Bazaar. Let me remind you all one more time that all these creative people are spammers. That's how my account looks like. Also remember, I never give my mobile number in any chat. I neither have an advisory nor do I give any stock tips. Now let's understand how does the business make money. In short, what's the revenue model, or as usual, like we say, what does the company do, right? So two major business models or revenue models the company has. Number one, it's an insurance web aggregator or a broker. Okay, broker services. We are going to talk about this a little bit in detail in the next section of the video. But as of now, it's an insurance web aggregator or a broker services. That is what is provided by whom? These services are provided by a name which everyone knows, which is Policy Bazaar, right? The second one is other services. In other services, which kind of services are given? Online marketing, consulting, support services, and few other services are given. All these services are provided by whom? Two entities. One is Paisabazaar and one is PB FinTech. Okay. Now let's understand one by one. If I'm talking only about Policy Bazaar, Policy Bazaar is actually their flagship platform which was launched way back in 2008. How does Policy Bazaar earn revenue? Mainly it earns revenue from insurance commissions and renewal commissions. Okay, insurance commission, renewal commission, I hope the word itself tells the difference. If someone renews their policy, that's when they'll get a renewal commission. They also earn revenue from telemarketing, post-sale services, account management, premium collections, and few other services. That is about Policy Bazaar. Now let's come to Paisabazaar. Paisabazaar is what? It was launched in 2014 as an independent digital lending platform of which products? Of personal credit products. Okay. What does it help the consumers? It helps the consumers to compare, to choose, and to apply for all these various personal credit products. Simple. How will Paisabazaar earn revenue? Very easy, very logical. More and more loans they disburse. Okay, they will get either a commission of the loan disbursed or they might also get a fixed fee. Okay, that's how Paisabazaar will make a revenue. Next, they can also get money by giving some credit advisory services or services which are related to credit advisory services. And last one is marketing services to financial service partners and other third parties. Okay. What does PB FinTech do? PB FinTech is mainly giving two services. One is of online marketing and consulting services, and second one is that they are providing a technology platform to whom? To their insurance and lending partners. In simple words, I'll tell you what is PB FinTech's role. PB FinTech is saying, Policy Bazaar, you focus on giving more and more insurance policies. Okay, more and more insurances you sell, more and more commission you will receive. Okay. PB FinTech is saying, Paisabazaar, you focus on giving more and more loans disbursed, more and more commission we will earn. Okay, what will we do? What will PB FinTech do? We'll give you a nice platform. We'll give you a nice tech platform. We will provide you with all digital solutions. Okay, so digital solutions and tech platform is the main point of PB FinTech. So I was just discussing in the chart that Policy Bazaar, I had written insurance broker / web aggregator. To be honest, when I was reading the red herring prospectus for the very first time, even I was not really 100% sure on what's the exact difference between these two. While I started doing more and more research, I got to know a lot of differences about that. So I thought of sharing this with you all. Few more details before that. First one, originally, Policy Bazaar was just a web aggregator, okay? And they had applied for an insurance license on 5th of October 2019, okay? After a long delay, almost 2 years after that, on 10th of June 2021, finally, Policy Bazaar got a license to act as a direct broker in the life and in the general category, both. Okay. On 25th June 2021, they surrendered their license as an insurance web aggregator. Simple till here. So first they were only web aggregators, then they applied for being an insurance broker and they got that license. But still the question remains, what is the difference between these two? And how will it impact the revenue of Policy Bazaar and in turn impact the revenue of PB Fintech? That's important, right? So first of all, let's understand one basic point. Web aggregators, what they cannot do. So what was Policy Bazaar not able to do earlier but will be able to do now post 25th June 2021. Okay. Earlier, whenever I talk about a web aggregator cannot offer health insurance to SMEs. In simple words, web aggregators can sell insurance policies to individuals like you and me, but they cannot do health insurance for SMEs, small and medium enterprises. Okay, number one. Now, with they getting a license of a broker, can they offer insurances to SMEs as well? Yes. Number two, earlier when they were only web aggregators, they were not allowed to have offline stores. Only telecalling was allowed. Now, because they have a broking license, will they now be allowed to open offline stores as well? Yes. Okay, so like FirstCry has an online presence plus an offline presence. Nykaa, online presence plus offline presence. We might see same thing for Policy Bazaar with an online plus an offline presence, right? Third thing, if I'm talking about only web aggregators, they were not allowed to get, or they are not allowed to get any renewal commission. In the previous segment, I did say that Policy Bazaar will now earn revenue not only from selling insurance policies, but they'll also get commission on renewal commission. Why? Because now they have gotten the license of a broker. Now they have changed from a web aggregator to a broker. And last one, very important. A web aggregator is not allowed to participate in the claim assistance process. Okay. So once you are a broker, can that entity also give a good assistance in the claim process? And answer is yes. To be honest, a person like you and me, we always believe that if I am taking out an insurance policy with the help of someone, that same entity should help me in the claim settlement process as well. Earlier, why Policy Bazaar was not allowed to do that? Because earlier they were only web aggregators. Will they now be able to do it? Yes, because now they are also an insurance broker. I hope the difference between these two is absolutely clear. Alright, with the basic information in hand now, let's start with the industry analysis. 2-3 very important points coming up in the industrial analysis. So let's start with the basics first. India's expected real GDP growth is at 9.5% in FY 2022 and is expected at 8.5% in FY 2023. Whereas the global average is just 4.9%. So are we way higher than the global average? Answer is yes. Second one is again an interesting stat which says that India is expected to become the third largest global economy by 2030 from the sixth largest economy in 2020. Answer is yes. We are getting there. Achha, by the way, this is as per Center for Economics and Business Research. It's not my research. Okay. Third important point here is that India is one of the youngest nations right now with the median age of just 29 years, whereas China, USA and Western Europe and Japan, have a median age of 39, 42, 49 respectively. So are we much younger as a country right now? Yes, absolutely yes. How is that important for PB Fintech IPO review? It is. Now pay attention to this chart. If we talk about a young population, ideally tell me, is our active credit card, ideally, should that count be higher? Ideally, yes. Our active debit card count should be higher? Ideally, yes. A life insurance, non-life insurance, consumer loans, should that be ideally? Yes. Yes. Because if I'm talking about a median age of 29, this is working population. But now let's compare India with other countries like USA and China. Okay. If you check active credit cards as a percentage of population, India is at 4.5. USA 137.7. It's like one person has more than one credit card. Okay. And China is at 56.8%. Debit card also, we are way less as compared to China. If I'm talking about person with no credit score at all, that is 78% as compared to 41 and 29, US and China. No credit score means what? Maybe these people have never even taken a loan till date. Okay. वैसे देखा जाएगा तो good from one angle, but ideally we expect that you should have a credit score. If you need a loan in future, it's always good to have some credit score. Okay. Next one is life insurance, non-life insurance. Again, look at the penetration of life insurance. It's just 25%. This is, by the way, sum assured as a percentage of GDP. Okay, that's way too less if I'm comparing with US, China. And if I'm talking about non-life penetration, premium as a percentage of GDP, it's 1%. Again, very, very less. Even if I'm talking about consumer loans outstanding, that's also a very, very less number. So all in all, of course, there's one number at the top which I didn't talk about, which is the gross national savings. That number is way higher as compared to US, but again, a shade lower than China. But this saving number earlier used to be a bit higher than 28.9%. So even Indians have started to save a little bit less and spend a little bit more. Not that good, huh? Save more. Okay. But anyways, coming to the main point, one last point I wanted to talk about in the same slide, that overall financial literacy in India right now is just, it's just that 30% of the population in India was financially literate. Isn't that a very less number? Wait, this is about the literate population. Wait, means what? Out of the total literate population, only 30% is financially literate. Because overall, India-wise also, we might not be 30% literate all over India. Correct? So, this is a very, very, very small number. And that exactly number is my pain point, and that's what I'm trying to address. Okay, but more and more you watch our channel, more and more you'll be financially literate. So don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon. Okay, next one is our industry, which is about insurance industry overall analysis. If you see, look at this chart, the overall industry, which is at 7.6 trillion rupees, okay, it's expected to grow to 39 trillion rupees at a CAGR of 17.8%, which could be the major contributor which can give a big boost. It can be the life insurance segment. Okay, now if you see in this chart total premium in life insurance, you can see that the CAGR from 2020 to 2025, it was at 15.1% CAGR for life insurance, and it's expected to grow at 22.6% CAGR. If you are talking about non-life, it was 11.7% and it is expected to grow at 16.6% CAGR. Why could this growth rate increase? Why can the industry become bigger? There could be many reasons. Out of that, I would want to add two reasons. Number one, more and more financial literacy. More and more people become more and more financially aware that yes, insurance is an important part of anyone's life. For some, it could be life insurance is a priority. For some, health insurance could be a priority. For some, car or whatever other type of insurances could be their priority. But as and how you become more and more financially literate, the demand for these insurance related products ideally will rise. Number one. And number two, very important, ease in which we are going to get insurance. The pre-bumper, remember 10 years before, you used to sign loads and loads of papers. And now it's just like clicking, 5, 6, 8, whatever clicks, you're done in 2, 3, 4 minutes. If there is more and more ease, won't you definitely go and get an insurance policy that suits you? So number one, you have knowledge. Number two, you have ease. Then what stops you from getting yourself insured, right? So important, one of the important factors why this industry can go further. Next one, if you see, again comparing India versus China and US, online channel versus the total premium collected, online, offline both. Online is just 1% in India versus USA at 13.3%, China 5.5%. So is the online growth, is there a big headroom? Yes, lot of scope for expansion. Coming to the last one for industry analysis, which is more about PB FinTech now. All these were about Policybazaar mainly because it was about insurance. And now coming to Paisabazaar, sorry. Paisabazaar, if you remember, was the lending platform, right? If you see, lending growth has been at 8% CAGR expected, 21 to 2025, the CAGR growth is at 8% expected, and 25 to 30 expected CAGR growth is 9.7%. Now, if you check India's consumer lending market, okay, this is again 18.2% of what percent of the nominal GDP number. India is again at only 18.2% versus USA is at 79.2%, China at 55.6%. Again, same old logic. Is there a big headroom for this consumer lending space as well? Yes, and that's where Paisabazaar can also contribute more and more to the whole business. Now let's talk about few more important points about PB FinTech. Let me brush it up one more time for you. What is PB Fintech? PB Fintech is a company which is providing a tech platform for whom? For Policybazaar. PB Fintech is telling Policybazaar, you focus on insurance business. We are going to provide you a fantastic platform. Paisabazaar, you focus on lending. We are going to provide you a good platform. That is what PB Fintech is saying. So in 2008, PB Fintech was incorporated and it has built India's largest online platform for insurance and lending products, and basically they are leveraging the power of technology, data and innovation. They are providing good convenient access for which products? Insurance products, credit products and other financial products. This service is given to whom? For people like you and me. Okay, so we are the beneficiaries of whatever we discussed till now. Are they giving any service to the lenders, to the insurers? Yes, they are also facilitating the insurers and lending partners by helping them to innovate and design customized products for consumers, and they are leveraging their extensive data insights and data analytics capabilities. In simple words, if I were to tell you what is this company doing, they are acting as a very nice online marketplace. Marketplace, simple, is like mandi. Okay, like we go to buy vegetables, we are the consumers. There are certain vegetable vendors and there is a mandi. That's a marketplace, correct? Similarly, this is an online mandi of vegetables, no, of insurance, of financial products, lending products. Okay, so in simple words, I can say Policybazaar or PB Fintech platform is acting like a bridge between whom and whom? Between the insurers and the person who wants to get insured, between the lender and the person who wants to get a loan. Simple? Yes. Now understand, in 2020, Policybazaar was India's largest digital insurance marketplace amongst all online insurance distributors with 93.4% market share. And if this is based on number of policies sold. And Paisabazaar was India's largest digital consumer credit marketplace with a 53.7% market shares based on disbursals in fiscal year 2021. By the way, the entire research is not done by me, it's done by Frost and Sullivan. If you're not aware about this name, just check out their name in the RHP, which is the red herring prospectus. Moving ahead with the shareholding pattern, if you check this chart, you can see that public holds 94.52%. Shares held by the employee trust is 5.48%. Where is the promoter holding? It is very clearly mentioned in the RHP. Have a look at this note in the RHP, which says that company is a professionally managed company. So basically, there is no identifiable promoter in terms of SEBI ICDR regulations. Okay, so that is how the main shareholding pattern looks like. If you also check out the shareholding of directors and KMP, that is the key managerial personnel, you can see Mr. Yashish Dahiya has 4.27%. Others like Mr. Alok Bansal, Mr. Naveen, Mr. Manoj and others, they just have minor 1%, 0.6%. Why? That is the reason what I told you right now. It's clearly mentioned in the RHP that it is a professionally managed company. Now let's start with the financial analysis. I'm going to talk about the key parameters in the financials. The very first one is total equity. Total equity has one important parameter which is known as reserves and surplus. Now ideally, reserves and surplus of a company go on increasing if they are into good profits. Any idea about this company? So unfortunately it's in losses. Then how come their reserves are increasing? How come their total equity is increasing? Reason is that securities premium is one type of reserve that has increased, because of which you can see a big jump in total equity. Okay. Second one, if I talk about revenue from operation, so that is the important point I wanted to highlight in the balance sheet. Going to P&L now, one important point in P&L, you can see revenue from operations has grown very nicely from roughly 4,922 million to 8,866 million, almost doubled. So out of the total revenue, a big chunk comes from their insurance web aggregator services, which is out of 8,866, it is 6,069 million rupees. Directly going to the bottom line, you can see that their their PAT has almost halved if I'm comparing 2021 with 2020. What has changed drastically? The advertisement expenses is to be checked carefully. Okay, first let us talk about PAT again. Is it PAT? It's not PAT, actually it's losses after tax. So their losses have gone down from 3,400 million to 3,000 million to 1,500 million. Okay, agreed, they're decreasing. But what is causing major losses? Any item from P&L if I remove, and if it will be in profits, any item. Now have a look at advertisement expenses. If I'm comparing only 2021 data, advertising expenses is 3,678 million and PAT is 1,502 loss. Okay, so if they at least reduce their advertisement expenses, there could be a chance that slowly the company can go profitable. Okay, now you might be wondering why would they reduce their advertisement expenses? Simple. If the visibility of any company goes on increasing, now for example, this is going to be a listed company going at a bigger base, visibility, if it goes higher and higher, then they might think about reducing the advertise expenses in future, which might in turn take the company from a loss making company to a profit making company. I'm not saying that this will happen in immediate next year or what, that only time will tell us. Okay, so as of now, it's a loss making company. If I go to the valuations, problem is that because it's a loss making company, I can't talk about EPS, I can't talk about PE ratio, can't talk really about return on net worth, no peers as such. If I talk about net asset value, again here the problem is that we are getting some net asset value because again of the securities premium, right? And still if I consider that, chalo, theek hai, still at the lower band, valuation is 18.36 times, at a higher band it is 19.14 times. Out of all these things, we discussed about the business model, revenue model, we did talk about the industry analysis, we did talk about the financials, we did talk about the valuations. But in this entire scenario, any risks? Yes. As on date, company does have a history of losses. In fact, their cash flow from operations are also negative. If few of their key business partners discontinue their relationship with Policybazaar, it can impact the business of the company. Even if you check out the litigations, the total tax litigations, if I'm talking about direct plus indirect, that's amounting to 245.44 million, and that's amounting to almost 6.65% of total expenses and 7.5% of their total liabilities. Now let's talk about the IPO details. Issue opens on 1st of November 2021, closes on 3rd of November 2021. And if you see that the total issue size is almost 6,000 crores, out of which fresh issue is almost 3,750 crores and balance is offer for sale. The IPO is expected to get listed on 15th November 2021. Okay, where are they going to use these net proceeds? Now, one point here. Just, I guess, 3-4 minutes ago, I was saying that because in their financials, one of their major expenses, advertising expense. If that expense reduces, then good, there is a possibility that they can go in profits. But if you see, the very first point in utilization of net proceeds is that enhancing visibility and awareness of our brands, including but not limited to Policybazaar and Paisabazaar, 1,500 crores, and this is the major chunk of the utilization of proceeds from IPO. So if they're going to have 1,500 for this purpose, ideally their advertisement expenses are still going to increase, and with this increase, I'm not sure whether they'll be able to turn profitable or not in the coming few quarters/years. Okay, plus they also want to check out new opportunities. They're planning to do some strategic investments, expanding their business even outside India. All these are the various purposes for which they're going to use the proceeds from IPO. Well, I hope you have understood a lot about this company as well as the industry, but am I going to apply for this IPO or not? For that, you will have to check out my live stream on 3rd of November at 10 a.m. So don't forget to tune in to our channel, see Rachna Fadke Ranade. Until then, take care, Jai Hind and bye-bye.